Tonight, ECG staff in Ashanti region on warpath with regional minister following arrest of regional ECG manager after revenue tax force disconnected Kumasi Technical University over 1.2 million cedi debt. We hear from the Public Utilities Workers Union, plus why former power minister under the Mahama administration says they feel vindicated as government prepares to commission controversial Ameri power plant in Ashanti region on Wednesday.
And for me, it absorbs some of us, especially those of us whose homes were raided because of this Ameri plant in 2017.
And you're live here on Joy 99.7 FM. This is indeed top story. There's agitation tonight among staff of the Electricity Company of Ghana after the Ashanti East regional manager of the company, Mark Yafe, became a subject of police investigations. Mr. Yafe was invited by the Ashanti Regional Police Command over a decision to disconnect the Kumasi Technical University over a 1.2 million cedi debt. Now, Joy News understands an ECG task force from Accra had moved into the Ashanti regional capital last week on a revenue mobilization drive. They had disconnected the university and demanded they pay up what they owed. Now, the staff accused the Ashanti regional minister of threatening and causing the arrest of the ECG regional manager. And there's a bit more that we're hearing tonight, including the workers now determined to wear red armbands and demand immediate action against the regional minister over the arrest that happened last week as the manager was in the process of helping the task force execute his mandate of raising revenues, especially when they had identified the institution that was owing 1.2 million cedis, in this case, the Kumasi Technical University. And these are details you're beginning to gather over the last few minutes from the Ashanti regional capital. Thankfully, we can speak to the General Secretary of the Public Utilities Workers Union, Michael Nyantechi, who joins us on the line right now. Mr. Nyantechi, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Yeah, good evening.
So can you confirm if indeed what we're hearing tonight indeed happened last week when one of your members was arrested?
Yes, indeed. This unfortunate incident happened. The general manager for ECG Ashanti East, who is doing his legitimate work, had this unpleasant situation of being called by the police to come and make a statement in connection with the disconnection of power at the Kumasi Technical University.
And what was the reason? What did the police say was wrong with that action? Did they charge him with anything?
Well, when he got to the police station, according to the report we have received, the regional minister called the general manager and virtually threatened that he should reconnect the power that has been disconnected to the Kumasi Technical University. And the general manager explained that disconnection exercise was carried out by a team from the national level. So it wasn't something that was within his purview. And so if there is any intervention, it has to come from the head office level. But the regional minister did not accept the explanation and rather indicated that he will call the police to arrest him for trying to create a public disorder. And true to his word, the general manager had a call in the night from the police that he should report. And by the time that he received the call, he felt that it wasn't appropriate for him to go to the police station at that ungodly hour. So he did indicate that he will come in the morning, which the police also agreed. So in the morning, he got to the police station, the Zongo police station, and then he was actually more or less asked to make a statement to the effect that the police said they are investigating a case which has come before them, and the complaint has been made that he has caused the disconnection of the technical university, which is trying to create public unrest. And so he was made to make an official statement and was given a self-recognizance bill. And we feel that this is very unacceptable. This is somebody, a public servant, doing his official work. And this is not the way he has to be treated in a situation like this. And we think this is most unfortunate for a political authority, a whole regional minister, to take such an action against a public servant who is doing his legitimate job. And even the situation where he is not the one who had even caused the power to be disconnected. We think such situations should not be countenanced. It is a clear case of abuse of power, and we strongly condemn this kind of act by political office holders.
I have tried to get the regional minister at least to get his side of the story. I've not been successful just yet. I've left for him messages to this effect. Have you managed to get hold of the minister at all to try and find out what really happened, at least from his side?
No, we are not investigating the matter to hear his side of the story. This is the report we have received from our member, a staff of the ECD, and that is the report we are standing on. We are not an investigating body to go and ask the side of the regional minister. This is what we are putting out, and we intend to make a public statement on this issue. And we think that such acts should not be countenanced, especially in a democracy where people are doing their legitimate work. They should not be harassed and oppressed in this kind of manner. He has committed no offense for which he has to be asked to make a formal statement and to be given or granted a bill, whether even it's on self-recognizance. We think this is an affront to the whole workers of the ECG. We strongly condemn this. If he had any explanation, he should put his side out. But from what we have received from our member, we find this very untenable.
You say the call that was placed to him was about the Kumasi Technical University and the disconnection that was obviously enforced there because they owed, from what I understand, 1.2 million. When this call was placed, did it force the ECG officials to restore power to the campus?
That was what the regional minister was directing the general managers to do. And he explained that the exercise that was carried out, which led to the disconnection of the technical university, was not done by his regional unit. And it was a team from the national level. So if there is any intervention, he has to call the head office or at the ministry level. But he will not understand any of this and try to use his coercive powers and cause the police to virtually try to arrest the general manager. And we think this is unacceptable.
You've condemned it, and from talking to members of the ECG staff in the Ashanti region, I get a sense that there's agitation. Some are even threatening that you should wear red armbands to show your disapproval of what happened. You are the leader of the group. What's the plan? What do you plan to do about this beyond the condemnation?
No, so we've been trying to calm our members down. We don't want this situation to escalate into any tension. We know the era that we are in, 2024. We are basically entering the political season. We don't want any hot issues coming out of this. So we want to put out a statement and draw the attention, especially of those who are wielding political power, that they need to be circumspect in the way they carry out their work. And then they should also know that public servants are doing their legitimate work. And for crying out aloud, everybody knows the effort ECG is making to also make sure that people who have consumed power who paid for the electricity. ECG does not generate power. It buys the power from IPTs and other suppliers. So if consumers will not pay, how do they expect the company to be able to run? And when things are not going on, these are the same politicians who will turn around and say, ECG is not performing, so it should be given to private operator. You will not sit down and allow such things to fester.
You say your emphasis now is to get your members in the Ashanti region to stay calm. You think you can succeed in getting them to stay calm? Because I get this has become a pretty hot subject among members there of the ECG staff who are seriously upset by what happened.
Yeah, I'm sure when we put out our statement, at least it will assuage some of the apprehension and the feelings, and we believe that the statement will go a long way to make members know that they are not alone.
I mean, the regional manager in question, where is he now? Is he required to return to the police to assist with investigations further?
When he gave his statement, he was granted bail, though on self-recognizance. But then the police did indicate if there is a need, they need to contact him. They will call him again.
Has he been contacted since?
No, this happened on Friday. As of now, I don't have any information whether he has been contacted again.
He would definitely get representation in terms of counsel from your end, wouldn't he?
Oh, if it gets to that point, but we think that this is not a matter that should get to that point. We believe that cooler heads should prevail, and this matter need not proceed further, because this is not any offense that required any kind of police process.
The Kumasi Technical University, have they now been restored with power now? Have they paid even a part of the 1.2 million cedis they owed?
Yeah, based on some discussions, they've paid some of the money, so they have been reconnected with power. And the balance has been scheduled for further payment.
Thank you very much. And that there is Michael Nyantuchi, he's the General Secretary of the Public Utilities Workers Union. If you're just joining us, the Ashanti Regional East manager of the ECG was arrested last week, Friday. We're just hearing about it today after a task force from the ECG went into town to disconnect institutions owing it. One of the institutions they disconnected is the Kumasi Technical University, which owed the ECG 1.2 million cedis. They disconnected it, and as you've just been listening there to Michael Nyantuchi, who is the General Secretary of POO, they alleged was an intervention by the regional minister who chairs the Regional Security Council, following which the regional manager was then arrested. He is now on self-recognizance bail. We've tried to get some clarity from the regional minister. We haven't been successful just yet. Once we do, we'll bring you his side of the story on this subject that has left the ECG staff agitating in the Ashanti region. As you've heard there, the General Secretary of the POO is saying that they're now asking and calling for calm among members of staff there of the ECG in the Ashanti region. And we stay in the Ashanti region where this Wednesday, if all goes well, government will commission the controversial Ameri plant. You remember that very controversial plant? Yes, it was relocated from the south and is going to be serving the middle and northern belts. We're now hearing from the NDC side. Remember, they signed a controversial contract with the power generators, Ameri, to bring this plant into the country. A former power minister who signed this, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, says he feels vindicated ahead of the commissioning.
I don't have a problem with the new nomenclature, except that the public should be told, there should be recognition that this is the Ameri plant being relocated. That is so important, so that the impression is not created in the minds of Ghanaians that this is a new plant. And for me, it absorbs some of us, especially those of us whose homes were raided because of this Ameri plant in 2017. It absorbs us because one of the arguments we made when we were bringing in the plant under President John Dramani Mahama was that because of its modular nature, it could be moved from place to place in the country to meet emerging needs in particular localities. And so this is the fulfillment of what we had envisaged. That yes, because of the modular nature, there are 10 units, each with 25 megawatt capacity. We can move them around to meet national demand. And let's also be fair, the decision to have generation in the central corridor is not an MPP decision. It's been something that has been on the drawing board, just as there's the need for another box supply point.
I've just been joined in the studio right now by my colleague, James Aveji. James, you've been to speak to Dr. Kwabena Donkor ahead of the commissioning. He also has some issues around the renaming of the Ameri power plant. Government is going to rename it the Kumasi 1 Thermal Power Plant.
Exactly.
What's his point on that?
He feels that renaming the plant would steal the original identity of the plant. In fact, he said that the VRA, which is the sole operators of this plant, could have come out earlier with this renaming issue and would have stated categorically that the plant they are renaming is actually the Ameri Power plant, so that it gives that kind of credence to the NDC who actually brought the plant into the country. And so since that is not done earlier, it's still some credit from the NDC to the current government.
Yes, VRA is a state institution. VRA is neither NDC or MPP. The Ministry of Energy is a state institution. The minister may be a political appointee, but the ministry is a state institution. And we expect those state institutions to execute their mandate professionally. And that is why we say, look, VRA, the statement we are talking about, VRA now issuing a statement, I haven't seen it yet. But that statement ought to have been issued earlier, when they started putting the public domain they were going to commission. That statement ought to have come with that this is the Ameri plant. We have relocated to Kumasi area, and it will be rebranded as. That would have cured all that. If you don't do that, it creates the impression that you are taking credit for what you did not bring in. In that, people ill-informed would think the government have brought in a new power plant.
And ahead of Wednesday's commission, there's some further controversy around this plant. From now, we're hearing from Dr. Bawumia's Manifesto Committee, responsible for energy. We're hearing from the chairman of the Energy Committee of Dr. Bawumia Manifesto Committee, Kojo Poku, who is raising further issues about that plant and what it should have cost this country. Dr. Kwabena Donkor has been responding to that too.
Exactly. So, Kojo Poku's reaction, actually the questions he raised, was on the back of the controversy over whether the plant should be renamed or otherwise. And so he raised the question on why it should not be called the Ameri. He says that per their checks, the plant is supposed to cost some $390 million. but the NDC at the time procured it at some $510 million, an extra $160 million. Now, he says that the extra $160 million was actually, in his words, a giveaway to Ameri, who he says did not play any important role in the procurement of the plant. But Dr. Kwabena Donko says that even when the NPP government came into power, they did their renegotiation and arrived at a price of $810 million. And so at the time and even now, the $510 million is the best bargain for this country.
Those taking that position are either ignorant or mischievous. First of all, if you're going to buy a car on high purchase, compared to if you are going to pay cash, do you pay the same price? You don't. To further buttress that, if you are going to, those who purchase properties, houses, if you are buying a house and paying cash down outright, I took a mortgage, and by the time you finish servicing the mortgage, it will at least be double the price if you had paid cash down. So there is what we call finance cost.
Okay.
Somebody's come to build a plant. You did not contribute a single cedi to it. And that the person will operate the plant for 5 years, after which he will transfer the plant to you for free. So there will be interest on the cost of the plant. There will be finance cost. And they could even be compound interest. And so you don't expect to pay the same amount that you would have paid if you had cash to pay for the plant at the time. It shows a total lack of appreciation of business principles.
So if Ghana were to go to the market at the time with physical cash.
Yes, assuming we had the money.
We had the money
yes.
to go to the market to procure this plant.
To plant.
It would have come at a lesser cost.
Yes.
At the $290 million.
No, I'm not absolutely.
Not that exact figure.
No, absolutely 290 is a figment of somebody's imagination.
I want to bring in now the Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Securities, and that joins us right now, Nana Amoisi. Thanks for your time here on Top Story. How much of a difference would it make to the reliability of power supply in the middle and northern belts now that we have the Mary power plants now fully functional in the Ashanti region?
Good evening to you, Evans, and to your listeners. Yes, we all know that most of the power plants that we have today, particularly the thermal power plant, can be found within the southern corridor of the country, in Takoradi and in Tema. Meanwhile, power has to be moved or shield all the way from the southern belt through the middle to the northern sector. If you look at the long distance that this power has to travel in terms of transmission before it gets distributed, along the way you will have key parameters of this power dropping, particularly the voltage level. And so if the voltage level drops, it's as good as sometimes not having power or experiencing a blackout. So it became necessary that within the middle belt of the country, we have a plant there just to boost up the voltage level and ensure that we have that reliable power supply that we're looking for. And it's been on the drawing board for quite a long time. Over 10 years now, it's been the plan of the Energy Commission to have a plant within the middle belt to support voltage levels. However, we must put on record that if we go and relax and get caught up with some of the challenges that we have in the sector today, then we can have a merry ride or part of a merry ride in Kumasi, but then it will not be delivering any power, probably for lack of fuel or lack of maintenance as we have it today.
Because
And
as
so-
it is right now, the pipelines will not have to transport gas either from the western region or from, of course, the reverse flow system that we have all the way to Kumasi. Is that the architecture that will make sure that Emery delivers full capacity?
Yes, it's an investment. When you take it from the Western Corridor to Kumasi, that pipeline may not only serve power plants, but may also serve some industries. You can still have the power plant, pipeline laid right, but it may not have gas flowing through that. If we don't ramp up our own gas production, let's say introduce a second affordable plant, along the way when demand goes up so much, we may have the pipeline all right, but gas may not be flowing. And so it's important that we ensure that we have that consistent flow of natural gas as well through the pipeline. The pipeline alone cannot deliver the gas to the plant, but then liquidity can also, be a contributing factor for that reliable natural gas supply to the plant.
And that is the main issue, is it not? And
Sure.
this comes at a time when we know that even for the existing power plants, government is struggling to raise the funds to buy adequate fuel to power it. And Mary will not be an exception. Also because it's the farthest we have when it comes to the plants. That means that the pipelines will have to travel longer and may actually be costlier.
Yes, it may be costlier, but then probably we can also, like I mentioned, make other industries benefit from this pipeline and not be so fixated as to connecting the pipeline from the Western Corridor just to the power plant. And I've also mentioned the liquidity challenge that, yes, the pipeline can be there all right, but if we don't work out the economics right, if we don't work out the management right, we'll still be having a pipeline with no natural gas flowing. One thing that we've also been faced with as a country, we've been so much concentrated on natural gas, forgetting that we need to have backup for this product. And we all know that even the Ameri and other power plants can run on multiple fuels. And so we also must make a room for storage of liquid fuels in case we lose out on the natural gas. Then we can fall on the liquid fuels as a form of cushioning, so the natural gas flow is restored.
Thank you very much. That's Nana Moisi there, the Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Securities. If you're in Ashanti region and you have something to say to us about the arrest of the ECG regional manager there, following the disconnection of the Kumasi Technical University, share your thoughts. 055-1111-997. News 9 in a minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, Telecel is here! Telecel, connecting energies.
Great news is here. Batmat is here again. XXL clearance sale. Guaranteed savings. From now till the end of April, the big sale continues. Get discounts of up to 70% off sanitary wares, light tiles, waterproofing, and all other product families. It's the year to get things done. Visit our showroom at the North Industrial Area next to the Winners Chapel, Ghana. Don't miss out. Batmat, welcome home.
In the next 60 minutes here on Newsnight, government struggles to secure deal with international bondholders to unlock $360 million IMF cash. As reports indicate, some bondholders are opposed to the terms being offered by Ghana. Tonight, we'll tell you why the IMF has rejected government's debt treatment proposal with the bondholders.
It is important that the authorities reach agreement with their official creditors on this memorandum of understanding.
We'll be live in Washington also tonight on Easy Calm on the teachers' front as unions accuse government of bad faith in their conditions of service negotiations.
They come to the table with lamentations. So today, knowing they come with the same thing, our reaction will not be palatable. They decided to call it off, that they are going to seek mandate and come back. As good citizens, we need to draw the attention of powers that be, that all is not well and there is an uneasy camp. And if they want to risk it, it's up to them.
Tonight, there is a warning to government to prepare for possible escalation of industrial unrest, which left pre-tertiary schools without teachers for nearly 2 weeks. Also, in today's Doomsday Diaries, we delve into the lives of students at the University of Cape Coast and the University of Education, Winneba. As they say, the frequent outages are affecting not just the academic performance, but also their sense of security on campus.
And it becomes very alarming because we have a lot of thefts going on during this era, like during examination era.
In business, government advised to be circumspect in debt restructuring negotiations with Eurobond holders to achieve a good deal. We'll hear from economist Dr. Patrick Isumin.
And in sports, will take defeat in their last 7 matches as Antikotoko supporters are increasingly calling for changes to the coaching staff amid fears of a possible relegation battle.
And then later, an Accra High Court issues bench warrant for the arrest of the Director General of the CID and the Director General of Legal and Prosecution Unit of the Ghana Police Service for repeatedly failing to appear in court. We have details. And tonight, efforts by government to secure a deal with international bondholders to restructure its debt have hit a snag after some external commercial creditors rejected the terms offered by Ghana. According to Reuters, Ghana failed to strike a deal with two groups of international bondholders to restructure $13 billion of debt due to the unfavorable terms. If Ghana does not progress on securing this deal with these commercial creditors, it cannot get a board-level agreement for the release of $360 million as part of the IMF deal. We'll take you live to Washington, D.C., where a crack team of Ghanaian negotiators are trying to make some progress. We'll hear also from the IMF mission chief for Ghana, Stefan Rodel, pretty shortly. But I want to bring in right now Isaac Kofeji, data analyst with the research desk, and joins me in the studio. What are the details of this debt treatment disagreement with international bondholders?
Evans, we understand that government has been in a debt rework negotiation with its international bondholders since March 2024. We are also learning from a Reuters report that talks are on hold for now after the IMF indicated that the deal will not fit its debt sustainability parameters, which set out how much debt it thinks that Ghana can afford. So we also understand that the bondholders are now, in two groups. So the first one is the international group of Western asset managers and hedge funds, and the another one is the including regional African, banks. We also understand that the regional African bondholders group has also rejected part of the proposed rework, including an option to retain the original value of the bonds with a longer maturity and lower coupon rate.
What does this mean for our talks with the IMF?
Well, the IMF message to Ghana is very simple, Evans. If you want $360 million, then talk to your external creditors to give you the needed financing assurances in line with the program parameters. Now, without this, it will be very, very difficult for Ghana to withdraw the scheduled $360 million. If we present any half-baked debt rework to the fund, it will surely reject it.
Stay with me. I want to bring in right now George Rafi. He is in Washington for us tonight, monitoring the negotiations that are currently ongoing. And George, what more have we learned so far about this challenge that our negotiators are having to deal with?
If you can hear me, just a quick background to this whole discussion, that as part of this IMF agreement, we are supposed to work to also restructure our debts to bring it to a sustainable level. And this whole debt restructuring thing can be classified as in two parts, let's say, or even in three parts. One is with the bilateral creditors that involve the World Bank, IMF, African Development Bank, and those are bilateral creditors. And what we can say, what we've picked up from multiple sources and persons with knowledge of these discussions is that Ghana has reached a deal with these bilateral creditors. Now, that was done as far back as February this year. Now, what we are also picking up is that when it comes to communicating this to the public or the international community, the agreed terms is that it should come through the official creditor committee being done under the G20 Common Framework. And that is why we've not had any communication on it, because it appears that the committee has to work to ensure that all their members are in tune or agree with the wording of even the statement that's supposed to come out. What the IMF had earlier explained was that what we reached in January was the agreement in principle. Now, Ghana is supposed to go on and have memorandum of understanding with these bilateral creditors. And that is what the IMF is actually waiting for, to go to its management, to go to the board, for the second program review to be approved by the board, and that disbursement of $360 million could come to Ghana. So what the fund is telling itself right now is that present that MOU with the bilateral creditors, and the fund can go ahead to the board for the board to approve this disbursement. Now let's come to the Euro bondholders, where Ghana is supposed to also have an agreement to them or try to restructure these debts. Now, even with the Euro bondholders as well, there is the international group, and then there is also the African group as well. Now, Evans, don't forget that whatever deal that we reach with any of these creditors, we have to go back to the IMF for them to say we have no objection, because they are also careful that whatever time that you reach, that doesn't go in any way to again balloon your debt. And that is why this challenge has come. It appears that some two groups were not more of like in tune, or were not happy with the terms that was presented, because when Ghana took that terms to the International Monetary Fund, they raised some objection.
And I read from the Finance Ministry that they are regrouping to continue negotiations. Do you know when that is?
Well, Evans, it has already started, and this is to make sure that the new terms that are going to propose to this particular group of people, and even just one clarity as well, it is not a rejection by all these Euro bond holders. A fraction of these Euro bond holders were actually okay with the terms that was presented. But also don't forget that that is not a critical ingredient now for the fund to go to the board. What we are picking up is that, there's going to be a third review, there's going to be a fourth review. It appears that you need also to reach a deal with the Eurobond holders when going forward to the third and the fourth review. But what is needed critically right now is that MOU, and it appears that it could be coming out very soon in terms of the bilateral creditors being done through the official committee when it comes to the proposed terms that these bilateral dealers have agreed to restructuring these debts. So back to the question again about the Eurobond holders and the discussions. It has started, Evans, and those are the reworking of these terms that have been proposed. And Evans, one critical thing is that whatever terms that government agrees, it has to go back to the fund. And so earlier on, government was then forced to issue a statement to this creditors because there was a non-disclosure deal that whatever agreement that you reach with these partners during the talks, no party is allowed to break communication on that one. But that expired today. And that is why government was compelled to come out with information on what is the way forward? Has all the interested group accepted the terms or not? So even that negotiations have already started trying to rework the paper, because most of these Eurobond holders or these institutions holders have representatives here in Washington, D.C., and it has already started.
Has government set itself a target by which date they hope to strike a deal? Because from what I understand, we must leave these Washington negotiations with a deal in hand. Hello, George.
So, Evans, if I get you right, what is critical right now for our is that memorandum of understanding with the bilateral creditors. And if my sources with persons who are actually working on restructuring this debt with the committees, anything to go by, then it appears a deal has been reached in that side. That is what is needed for the IMF staff to go to their management, to go to their to approve a second review, and then that disbursement to come. The Eurobond events is also very, very critical, because the way the negotiations are, you don't want to wait and if this real work is going to go whether the IMF is pushing for, maybe it could be done before government leaves Washington, D.C. at the end of this annual World Bank Spring Meetings events.
And that will be the ideal situation for government. Leave Washington with the deal in hand that the IMF approves of. And indeed, we've been hearing also from the IMF mission chief for Ghana, Stefan Roder, and he's been speaking at this joint news conference where he stressed how crucial these negotiations are for Ghana.
In January this year, Ghana was able to reach an agreement with its bilateral creditors, including big guys like China and France. However, the terms of the agreed debt treatment were expected to be formalized.
That's not the sound I wanted to play. You'll hear from Roder pretty shortly, where he details why this is crucial. But I want to quickly bring in Professor Godfred Bokwing. He's a professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School. Joins us on the telephone line right now. Prof, thanks for your time here on News Night. It's been quite a while since we re-engaged on the IMF. Matters has resurfaced because of these negotiations currently underway. We've been reading today about this major snag the government is encountering. How important is it that they leave Washington with a deal?
Well, I thank you very much, Evans, and good evening to our cherished listeners. I think that we are here again, and it's not new. We have said before that the 17th IMF program is different from most of the programs engagement we've had with the IMF. In the time past, once staff level agreement had been reached, the rest has to do with working out the details with the internal processes of the IMF through the management board and then the executive board. This time round, there's a third layer. And that third layer has to do with significant progress that the country needs to make with the restructuring of our debt, both as a prior action before the program was approved on May 17, 2023. Don't forget, Evans, the staff level agreement for the main program itself was reached on December 12, 2022. And it took us months. And the reason for that delay was the fact that we needed financing assurance from Ghana's official creditor committee, co-chaired by France and China. So we are here. So you will see, and going forward, that almost every milestone under the program is tied to some progress being made, especially by the country's effort to restructure its bilateral debt. Then, of course, the Eurobond will also come into the picture. But Evans, let's bear in mind that, and we said it on your program, that the IMF inspired debt sustainability analysis and framework and debt sustainability pathway that they have agreed with government with minimal input from creditors is problematic. It will come back to the play very soon. You know why I'm saying so? Hello?
Tell me.
The reason I'm saying so is that when government agrees with creditors what level of haircut and the debt parameters, it must be consistent with largely unrealistic debt sustainability framework the fund had agreed with the government. If you look at the debt sustainability pathway all the way to 2028, and you look at it within the program framework of up to 2026, the level of relief from external debt restructuring that is needed for Ghana to restore debt sustainability by 2028 is huge. And perhaps may be difficult for creditors, especially the external creditors, to bear. Let's bear that in mind. Okay? And whilst on one hand, the IMF is preaching comparable debt treatment, they have excluded their debt. And they are asking for higher and deeper haircuts on other creditors. Let's look at the principle. Let's look at the morality of it. Let's look at the justification of it and the rest of them. Okay? So out of the eligible bonds of $20 billion, we are looking at relief in the next 3 years of almost $10.5 billion. That is always going to be problematic, meaning that for the level of accommodation that external creditors have to make, or the level of sacrifice they have to make for Ghana to restore their sustainability, may be problematic for them to come on board totally. That is why you realize that the IMF managing director was impressing on Ghana to negotiate hard. And because what it means is that any ground that we lose or any gain in terms of the external creditor negotiating from position of strength will compromise the debt sustainability framework we have agreed. And bear in mind, the G20 common framework is hinged on IMF debt sustainability analysis and debt sustainability pathway. That is where the issue is.
Yeah, I mean, in spite of the challenges that we've seen today, you listen to our finance minister, and he sounds very confident. Listen.
We are very confident that if things go the way they are, we certainly will reach a deal at some point. But what is significant is that in all these negotiations, we are mindful about the fiscal targets. We are mindful about the debt sustainability target.
Hey, apologies for that earlier hitch there. But you heard him, Professor Bokwe.
Yes.
You share his confidence?
I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with having such confidence. We've seen that. You check government trajectory from when we started in negotiation with the fund, timelines that we missed, and all of that. But I think when you also pick the signal from the ground, the creditors are concerned. Look at the back and forth with the official creditor committee. Okay, even to procure the financing assurance, it wasn't that easy. So what I'm saying is that it may come back to the same debt sustainability framework that we are working towards. And we have said it before, that the debt, that the cut-off date may have to be extended. We may have to look at the adjustment process in there to work out something that allows both parties to walk away with meaningful progress.
But bottom line, is our next tranche from the IMF deal that we got, the $3 billion, is it under any threat? Watching what is unfolding in Washington.
Well, the threat would be how quickly we can get that. Remember that in January, in fact, if you look at the IMF supported program, we're supposed to have finished the first review by 1st November 2023. We reached staff level agreement in October. It took us all the way to January before we secured the agreement in principle with the official creditor committee before the IMF board met and approved our first review. In the second review, which we have just reached staff level agreement, the condition is that the agreement in principle that was reached in January 2024 must be translated into an MOU, okay, before the board will consider the second review, for which we can get the $360 million. Now, the third review, the MOU that is agreed must now be signed by the member countries before the next review would also be approved by the fund. And you know why all of these things are very important? We are at the point where the fund, the IMF itself, knows that without significant progress with the country's restructuring of its debt, the IMF program itself can only achieve limited effectiveness. That's the reality.
Thank you very much. That there is Professor Godfrey Bokwing, Professor of Finance at the University of Ghana Business School. You've heard his thoughts on this matter as it unfolds in Washington. Georgia is there for us. There's a lot riding on this. The Ghanaian economy, its very survival rests on Ghana striking a deal there. And the IMF itself has been stressing that at the joint news conference. Listen to Stefan Rudo, who is our IMF chief.
In terms of the next steps, and given Ghana's strong progress under the program, it is important that the authorities reach agreement with their official creditors on this memorandum of understanding that I talked about earlier. And we look forward to the authorities' continued efforts to reach this agreement and the other creditors as well, in line with the program parameters.
And that is the IMF Mission Chief for Ghana, Stefan Rudet. I want to hear from you, 05511119997. And I want to quickly move on to Labour because there's a lot happening among the teachers front. There is an uneasy calm on the pre-tertiary teachers front. To be precise, as 3 unions negotiating fresh conditions of service accuse government of bad faith. The Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, the National Association of Teachers, NAGRAT, and the Coalition of Concerned Teachers, CCT, laid down their tools on the 20th of March, demanding improved conditions of service. Now, they were forced to call it off after the National Labour Commission secured an improved negotiations terms. That has been going on for some time now, directing that they call off the action following the agreement to sit down and talk. But this evening, talks appear to be heading for a breakdown as the teachers blame government of frustrating the process. In a statement, leadership of the unions warned government and the public not to blame them in the event of what it calls brouhaha, the pre-tertiary level. I want to bring in Thomas Musa. He's the General Secretary of the biggest teacher union we have currently. That's NAT. He joins us on the line right now. Thank you, sir, for your time here on Newsnight. What really is a concern there? Everybody thought the negotiations were going well. What has happened? What has changed?
So thank you very much. I think we all know the story already. We don't need to belabor the point, but it is important now we place some few issues on record. Number one, on the 26th, when the Labour Commission gave their ruling, and we indicated that we will go through the processes to call off the strike. One of the ruling or the items in the ruling was that we meet the following day, 27th, so that we commence or we start the negotiations. On the 27th, we went to the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations, where all the government team assembled. Guess what? They told us that until we call off the strike, they will not engage us. We took our time to explain that we've already told the Labour Commission that we need to go through certain processes to get it done. That to no avail. They insisted and they never engaged us. On the 2nd of April, the strike was called off. And before the strike was called off, they had then told us the day we called off the strike, they would table their proposal. They would table what they have before us so that we take it out from there. You won't believe it. When the strike was called off on the 2nd of April, today is 15th. The employer side, they have not tabled anything up to now. They have not tabled anything up to now. We should have met today. And when we went, knowing very well that we are not very happy and things might get out of hand, they decided that we'd rather make it tomorrow for them to go and seek mandate and come and let us engage. The question is, what is it? What is it? And that is why we are waiting this letter.
I mean, is that to suggest that those who were originally tasked to come and mediate with you, they didn't have the mandate?
No, you see, we have not gotten to the mediating stage. Let's just get this thing clear. The stages are as follows. You do negotiations first. If the negotiations do not work, that is where you go to mediation. Okay? Then from mediation, you go to arbitration, voluntary arbitration, compulsory arbitration. So we are not yet at mediation stage. We are still negotiating. And what we are saying is that since 2nd of April, when the strike was called off, the employer side has not tabled anything. And in industrial relations, we call it bad faith. It is unfair labor. It is bad faith.
And they haven't tabled anything because...
They have not tabled anything.
Because? Have they explained to you why?
It is up to them. They have to explain that. I don't speak for them. We have done all that we have within our power to enable us get the discussion or the negotiations going. But they have not tabled anything as of today, 15th April. They have not tabled anything.
But you say that they've assured that you'll return to the negotiating table tomorrow?
Yes, they said today, knowing very well that if they come and repeat the things they were doing in the past, it will degenerate. They saw it wise to tell us that, look, we'd rather meet tomorrow instead of today. And so tomorrow, 2 o'clock, we go and listen to them. But we need to sound, we've already sounded our alarm bell. The national security, they have a cliche that says that you see something, you say something. And so what we have seen, that is what we are saying or we are sounding. So whatever happens, as indicated in our press statement, the government team, the Ministry of the Ministry of Finance should have themselves to blame.
I hear you say that you may have to return to the strike action that you called earlier. If this is not dealt with, at least you don't see any proper commitment tomorrow.
No, the issue is that we have all cards on the table. In industrial relay, we don't say all cards are still on the table.
Including strike.
All the options are on the table.
Including
but we needed to sound an alarm bell. And that is what we have done.
I mean, specify for me. I know you, from what we hear, you're negotiating about conditions of service. But what really does that entail?
Hello?
What really does that entail when we hear you say conditions of service? What does this entail when you sit around the table?
Okay, when we talk about the condition of service, we're looking at the collective agreement. We're looking at the issue of collective agreement. And if we could add, we talk about the issue of the scheme of service. And then as for the code of conduct, we have it. So we are left with two outstanding items. These are the scheme of service and then the collective agreement. And the first one expired as far back as 2009. It took about 10 years to 11 years before it was renewed. And this time around, we are telling them we don't want what happened in the past to be repeated. And that is what they want to do. And we will not give them that particular chance. And the teachers are wide awake. And that is why we are sounding the alarm bells for them to be careful.
Thank you very much. And that there is Thomas Mensah, is the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers. Are you a teacher yourself? Do you agree with the position expressed now by your General Secretary? Let me hear from you, 055-1111-997. And it's now time for our Doomso Diaries. And the frequent power outages have sparked huge academic security concerns for many students at the University of Education Winneba and the University of Cape Coast. The students say they've had to grapple with sleeping at the libraries that are powered by the universities and also bear the consequence of walking back to their hostels in darkness. In today's Doomso Diaries, my colleague Eric Asante examines the impact of the power crisis on the life of students at the two universities. He has more in the following report.
The song in the background is titled Survivors, a 1979 classic by the legend Bob Marley, detailing how some people amid social inequalities still make a way to survive. Perhaps this is a song most of the students at the University of Education Winneba and the University of Cape Coast are drawing inspiration from amid the current energy crisis known as Doomso.
We're the survivors. The hostels, the way they give lights out is so bad. Today like this, I have Camo, I have industrial psychology for tomorrow. But because I can't go back, because of the light out, I have to stay till 5 a.m. And I am tired. Imagine you have exam at 8 a.m. and then at 5 you are still at the library. How?
Bridget is a level 200 graphic communication student at the University of Education Winneba. Bridget narrates how she now learns in an unusual environment just to be able to meet academic deadlines.
So if there is no light, if the light goes off unannounced and then your laptop is low and then you are supposed to go and work on something, you're unable to go and work on it. For example, you have to submit a work, or we were given an assignment as in to submit it 12 o'clock, but there was no light and then some of us, our laptops went off, so we couldn't email the thing to the lecturer on time.
The story of Bridget resonates with her colleagues at the University of Cape Coast. Francis tells me the Sam Jonah Library is now his second home because of doing so.
Sometimes, because of the lights out, most people troop in here to be comfortable because there is light, there is fan, there's no heat like that, and then because they want to study and there's no light in their hostels, they find it kind of like discomforting. So when they move in here, there is light, the AC is working, and they feel comfortable to study. So most often, because of that, there is pressure building up here when you come late, building fan space. So.
The students are rushing to get a seat at the Sam Jonah Library. This building has become a tower of hope where most of the students draw inspiration from when the lights goes off.
Okay, so right now it's 9:51 and we have to rush to the library and study for our paper tomorrow, but then there is no light. We are really finding it difficult to make it up for our papers tomorrow, so we plead with authorities to kindly come to our aid. It's really not helping us. We are struggling to study with this doom. So
the magnitude of the recent electricity crisis in Ghana is not unprecedented. However, the frequency of the current power cuts in an environment of higher learning like the University of Cape Coast and the University of Education Winneba, where students have become accustomed to modern amenities that rely on regular electricity supply. They say this is having a negative effect on them.
Our slides are either on our laptops or our phones, and we have to power these gadgets, but because of doom, so we can't power these gadgets, and we have to learn. We want to pass our examinations, and for level 100 students we are supposed to use the hot plates, or I can say the electrical cookers to cook food. Sometimes you'll be cooking, then or doom so.
Because we are in the examination week, we cook in bulk and put them in our fridge. So if light is taken impromptu, that means that we don't have any sort of energy to keep our food. So they go bad, and that really affects us all.
The University of Cape Coast covers a vast area of land and is surrounded by 5 communities. The absence of a generator for electricity in most of the hostels in those communities means students have no option but to move to campus when the lights goes off. And this comes with its associated security challenges.
My greatest concerns come to the security. Leaving my hostel to campus becomes very scary because there are no lights on the street when there is light out. And it becomes very alarming because we have a lot of thefts going on during this era, like during examination era. We have people demanding for phones, taking your laptops and all others. So it becomes very stressful.
The students are calling on the powers that be to come up with a timetable for them to plan for their routine academic activities on campus effectively. My name is Eric Asante for Joy News.
On so a diary with us here on News Night. It's on Joy 99.7 FM, and James Ashan is joining me with business. Hello, James.
Hi, Evans. In business, government advised to be circumspect in debt restructuring negotiations with Eurobond holders to achieve a good deal. We'll hear from economist Dr. Patrick Esumian, and Institute for Energy Security blames reintroduction of price stabilization and recovery levy as part of reasons for projected price increase of petroleum products in the coming days. Business News on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN, Kingdom Books and Stationery, Syntex Tanks, and Pepsodent Charcoal and Herbal.
When you want to eat, just Momo it. Tired of the long queues in the supermarket? Pay with Momo. When you really want that beautiful new blouse, just Momo it. When you want to get a trim and get fresh to impress you know who, just Momo it. When you need to pay your utility bills and domestic staff, Shani Momo. When you want to send love to the family back home, send some Momo. Join the millions of MTN Momo users all over Ghana and live life the brighter way. So just Momo it. MTN.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302-764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Water is needed all day, all night. So remember Syntex tank all day, all night. 7 years warranty. Select any color for free. In no the crack, in no the spoil. Call Accra on 0244 335 168. Kumasi 0505 555 666. Syntex tank. A strong, a tough. Water is needed all day, all night. So remember Syntex tank all day, all night. 7 years warranty. Select any color for free. In no the crack, in no the spoil. Call Accra on 0244 335 168. Kumasi 0505 555 666. Syntex tank. A strong, a tough.
Hello, Auntie Araba. Hey, Bugger, how you doing today? I want to buy Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, but I don't have enough money. So what are you going to do? Can you give me the big size? You know, as for me, I'll pay the balance later.
Today, no credit. I haven't sold much this morning. If you don't have enough money for the big size, why don't you try the 120-gram pack?
There's a 120-gram pack? Introducing the new Pepsodent Cavity Fighter in 120-gram pack size. More affordable and convenient. Get yours today from any supermarket near you. Every smile matters. This advert is FDA approved.
Hello, my name is Mami Akuya, an entrepreneur and a mother of 2. My work keeps me busy most of the time, and sometimes it takes me away from my family. But the safety and health of my family is very important to me. As a working mother, I cannot afford to take any chances when it comes to matters of health. That is why I signed up for a family healthcare plan from Equity Health Insurance. My family and I have access to over 700 hospitals, clinics, opticians, dentists, pharmacies, and diagnostic centers across the length and breadth of Ghana. With Equity Health Insurance, I no longer have to worry about medical bills. Anytime a member of my family visits a hospital, Equity Health Insurance has got my family and I covered. What about you? Who has got you covered?
Call Equity Health Insurance on 050-660-7910 and talk to them about your family health needs now. Visit equityhealthinsurance.com for more information. Equity Health Insurance, here for you.
Showtime! Good life time! Paddy, how is your good life?
Hey, before you attack that sumptuous variety of foods with Toto, do yourself a favor.
Wash your hands with soap under running water, your bowl before you eat, and at all other critical moments. That is,
before you cook, after you visit the toilet, change your baby's diaper,
and when you return home from anywhere.
Let's all come aboard Good Life by washing our hands with soap under running water and at all other critical moments to keep the germs away from our family. Good Life, live it well. It's an everyday thing. Good Life from Ghana Health Service and partners with support from USAID.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. I am James Ishan. Let's settle for the details now. And economist Dr. Patrick Esumin has advised government to be circumspect in the negotiations with Eurobond holders to get a favorable deal. Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam today disclosed that Ghana has made significant progress in the debt restructuring negotiations. According to him, initial challenges faced in the discussion with the Eurobond holders was a hitch that will be resolved in the subsequent meetings. Dr. Esumin is of the view that government must tread cautiously to ensure mutual agreement that would benefit the country.
It's something that anybody who has any knowledge of this would have expected. It's not something that you make your initial offers and get accepted. I think it's very important from our point of view. It's very important that we take our time and get a very good deal, even if it drags on, than to get a deal that doesn't really serve our long-term interest. So, and you can understand why they will take the position that they've taken, because I think this has something to do also with the bilateral negotiations. Once the bilateral partners give us some deal, by the comparability principle, they expect that something similar will also happen with the bondholder. So this could go on for a while, but I think we should understand that these things take time, and then try and get the best deal that we can get.
You heard economist Dr. Patrick Esumin. Still on the debt restructuring, finance professor at the Andrews University in the USA, Williams Pepper, is urging government to focus more on securing a memorandum of understanding with its external bilateral creditors to unlock the $360 million from the fund. According to him, although reaching a debt agreement with the international bondholders is critical, obtaining an MOU is more pressing now to ensure the sustainability of the program.
These creditors, once they get it signed, we are sure that, this 360 may come in. But going forward, before we get to the next review, we should have been able to reach an agreement with these Eurobond creditors. So that is the most important thing. IMF is aware that new negotiations with these Eurobond holders take time. So if you are picked loose from what we have mentioned, it may be a fourth level of consideration, but we have to still work at it to make sure that we get it done, because we want to focus on debt sustainability approach.
Dr. Williams Pepera is a finance lecturer at the Andrews University, USA. Now let's do some other stories. And the government of Germany and Ghana have resumed its business council meetings after it was disrupted by the COVID pandemic in 2019, following the first meeting in Accra. Speaking to journalists after the second meeting, German State Secretary of Economic Affairs and Climate Change, Udo Philipp, assured that the council is ready to work with Ghana in ensuring a smooth business transaction between German investors and their business partners.
The first one, which we held in 2019, we would have normally had one before this, but because of COVID-19, we could not come earlier. Ghana is the only country in sub-Saharan Africa where we have such a joint economic business council. We have this here because Ghana is very a good partner for our German business. We are coming here as German government to enhance this business relationship, to help our businesses here, our German businesses, to do business in Ghana.
Finally, the price of petrol and diesel are projected to further increase by about 5% and 4% respectively at the pumps in the coming days. That, according to the Institute for Energy Security. However, liquefied petroleum gas could see users enjoy some price cut by about 8%. The price changes, the IES said, is as a result of the international market dynamics and the poor performance of the local currency. It also blamed it on the national policy changes and directives from the National Petroleum Authority. Here is Adam Yakubu, research analyst at the IES.
Following the recent geopolitical tensions that we are seeing in the Middle East, that have adverse impact on the performance of crude and eventually refined products. Also, the Ghana cedi in the last pricing window didn't do so well, losing some 2.43% of its value against the United States dollar. And the new directives of both reintroduction of the price stabilization levy and also introduction of a price floor by the MPA to regulate activities within the downstream petroleum sector. Owing to that, any changes do not happen within the policy regulation sector. The IES is projecting that liquid fuels could go up again in the second half of.
And that was research analyst at the Institute for Energy Security, Adam Yakubu. And that's all for business on Newsnight with me, James Ishen. Over to you, Evans.
James, thank you very much. It's so live your Newsnight. It's on Joy 99.7 FM. I'll be sharing a few of your messages with the rest of the world pretty shortly. But I want to return to the story about the agitating teachers, not NAGRAT, but also the Coalition of Concerned Teachers are unhappy that negotiations that was called by government and the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission together with the NLC have stalled after they called off their strike. I want to bring in Professor Charles Adobopon, is the Director, Grievances and Negotiations at the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. Joins us on the line right now. Thank you, sir, for your time here on Newsnight. We spoke to Nat, and we're very unhappy that after they called off their strike on the 2nd of April, nothing has happened since, and government has come to the table with absolutely nothing. And they have already warned that if this continues tomorrow, they'll be forced to enforce measures that may include going back to striking and withdrawing their service. What's the status of the negotiations?
Thank you. Good evening, Evans, and good evening to your listeners. Thank you for inviting me to react to the statement issued by the teacher union. Yes, indeed, they went on strike, and they were requested to call off the strike, NLC and certain court injunction. Indeed, they returned to the negotiation table. We have been engaging, and as far as we are concerned, we are doing what is expected of us. In terms of negotiations, it is not one offshore event that you take for a day and then you are able to conclude everything. But we have had several meetings with them, and we think that certain positions were changed, and then we needed to step back and then have some discussions with our principals. And I'm sure that even tomorrow by 2 p.m., significant progress will be made.
But why is it that since they called off their strike on April 2nd, government has come to the table with absolutely nothing? Government says, according to the teachers, government hasn't made any offer.
I'm a bit surprised that they are reporting that government has not offered anything. We have had some engagements with them, and certain positions and certain proposals were amended by both parties. And we told them that, of course, per the new proposals on the table, that is the items, we have to get back and then engage our principals before we can take any decision. And that's exactly what is going to happen tomorrow.
Did government come to the table with something, and what did they come to the table with?
Per their proposals, the items that they have submitted, when we step back to have certain discussions, the decisions that we take, we'll bring it to the table for negotiation.
What's happening tomorrow exactly? I understand they told us that there's a meeting scheduled for tomorrow.
Yes, to continue negotiations.
Was a meeting called for today that didn't come off?
Certain issues came up, and then we have to reschedule a meeting for tomorrow.
An issue like the team not having the mandate?
No, really. I mean, there are certain things. There are so many other issues that, of course, we don't have to go to the negotiation table with only few stakeholders. You need to get everybody on board. And sometimes other engagements don't allow some of our principals to be present. That is why we rescheduled this meeting to tomorrow.
So you dispute the teachers' claim that nothing has happened since they called for the strike on April 2nd?
Well, things have been going on. As I said, other positions were changed, certain issues were amended, and so we decided that, okay, let's step back and then have some discussions with our principals, and then we get back to the table.
When you say your principals, you mean government?
Of course, I'm part of the government team, so the government team is made up of other ministries and agencies, and so you need to get all of them, to the table, and sometimes some schedules that they do have.
So who is supposed to be at the table but not right now, that you're now trying to get to the table?
What I'm saying is that sometimes when we meet, certain decisions and items are amended. And when it happens like that, you need to step back to have a discussion on the new items that parties have agreed.
And that there is Professor Charles Adobopon. Thank you very much. He is the Director, Grievance and Negotiations at the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. And we can now do some sports. I love this weekend's EPL because all my enemies lost. Wow. Arsenal and Liverpool. I want City to win.
Oh, really? City is not your enemy?
No.
Oh, that's interesting.
As for Arsenal and Liverpool, they'll make too much
It's
noise.
really interesting coming from a Manchester United fan.
That is fine. Have you seen? Do you know any Man City supporter close by you?
Okay, this based on the supporters around you.
Yeah, too much noise. Well. Fred Smith and Sabu. There's too many of them.
Arsenal fans.
Arsenal fans and Liverpool fans also. I mean, let's City win it again, and then let's Kronberg.
We'll see. Anyway, so yeah, it's looking interesting in the English Premier League, but on the local scene, it's really getting interesting because Asante Kotoko's technical team, led by Prosper Nate Ogum, is under increased pressure after the club suffered their sixth defeat in 7 games when they lost to Dreams FC by 2-0 on Sunday. Now, Kotoko, whose last positive result was a draw against Bechim United on March Day 24, were looking to get their first win since the 1st of March. Now, the defeat means Kotoko stay in the 11th position, 16 points off the top spot in the league, and just 3 points above the relegation zone. Now, for fans of the club, they believe an urgent change in the technical direction is needed.
We need to sack the coach and find a new manager to turn things around. We also need to buy new players suitable for the club because Kotoko is not a club that should lose 6 games in 7. Since I was born, I have never seen this kind of performance from a Kotoko team. Otumfuo needs to act and change the technical team. The coach is not helping the club. The club is killing us emotionally. We are tired and have left the team for them. This cannot be the state of Kumasi Asante Kotoko.
Of Kumasi Asante Kotoko, but will the management of the club and the owner of the club, Otumfuo, do anything about the course that they are making? Well, Stephen Zando is in Kumasi and now reports.
It is still not clear what decision the interim management committee of Asante Kotoko immediately wants to take as regards the future of head coach Dr. Prosper Gumnati after the fans called for his exit. The IMC would need the approval of Mensah to take an action to relieve Ogum of his post, but we hear Mensah still supports Dr. Ogum to be in charge of the team, even though the team has just 4 points from a possible 27 in the second round of the ongoing Ghana Premier League. Kotoko's performance in 2024 has really been poor, and with the fans constantly mounting pressure on coach Prosper Nate Ogum to leave the club, anything at all is possible in the next few days.
Stephen Zando with our sister station Love FM reporting. That's it for you, Evans, in sports.
Well, thank you very much. And a few of your messages now on our WhatsApp console. This from Senai Nagonu says, in fact, the power challenges in the country is very bad, so the government must address it. Kuonu from Cape Coast says, thank you, Joy FM, for raising the problem at UCC. With the last-minute learners are in trouble because too many times we do not have electricity at night. Tell them to get us generators. Kofi Ado says, consistently, residents of Awoshi have their lights off in the evening till the next day from Friday. It just went off again, he says. And Mustafa Intichiman says, so it's true. This government believes a Ghanaian teacher can't be rich. Look at how they treat the teachers. Well, 2024 December is just here. And your thoughts there on our WhatsApp console. And this is your election headquarters. It's brought to you by Petrosol Clean Fuel in full quantity, CIMA, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, AICPA and CIMA together as the Association of International Certified Professional Accountants, and the German Ozone Medical Center, Alternative Therapy, Dental, Wellness and Beauty. Now tonight, the opposition National Democratic Congress is demanding thorough investigations into the missing biometric verification devices reportedly stolen at the Electoral Commission. The General Secretary of the party, Fifi Kwete, has been addressing a news conference.
Contrary to the EC's rebuttal that no biometric verification devices, BVDs, were missing, The EC has now admitted and disclosed that in truth, some BVDs are indeed missing. How then can we trust the integrity of the Electoral Commission when their initial denials are so blatantly contradicted by their later admissions at IPAC? What else might they be misleading this country about? Here is the alarming revelation, ladies and gentlemen. Not only do we have stolen components of biometric voters registration (BVR) kits on our hands, but we also are dealing with missing biometric verification devices (BVDs). This disclosure was made at the IPAC meeting on Tuesday, April 9, 2024, by the Electoral Commission when they briefed stakeholders on the Commission's biometric equipment. Regarding the missing and unretrieved biometric verification devices (BVD), the NDC indicated at the IPAC meeting that many of the questions raised about the stolen component of the registration kits apply to the BVDs.
Meanwhile, the party's director of elections, Dr. Omani Boama, says the only way the EC can regain the trust of the NDC is by providing answers to the 25 questions the party posed to it on the missing BVDs.
They tried to hide this theft from us and other stakeholders. Let us rebuild the trust. The only way to rebuild the trust is for the EC to respond to our 35 questions and also to agree that the investigations must take place. Thank you.
Dr. Mani Boama. Now, God hates the sin but loves the sinner. That's the basis for a one-man demonstration against Ghana's newly passed anti-gay bill by a Ghanaian youth identified as Texas Kadil Moro, who hit the streets partially naked today. Under this newly passed legislation, there is a jail term clause for prospective offenders, but Texas says such a law is high-handed. The human rights advocate used his solo street protest today to appeal to Ghanaian authorities to reverse the criminalization of homosexuality. There's more on the following report.
He was barefoot, shirtless, and left only in his underwear. And yet, Texas Kadri Moro was unrelenting in his quest of marching through the streets of Accra, clinging onto a miniature of a cross signifying his willingness to shoulder the burden of the sexual minority groups in Ghana. Parliament a couple of months ago approved the Ghanaian Family Values Bill, with offenders of this legislation facing potentially 3 years behind bars. But Moro says the criminal nature of this bill is undemocratic.
We all have our individual foibles and are guilty of one sin or the other. In view of the foregoing, I plead with the President of the Republic to, upon the eventual receipt of the bill, consider the concerns I have raised here and ask the House of Representatives to amend the bill by expunging the clause seeking to put offenders to jail and rather consider alternatives and pragmatic measures that could better solve this problem in hand.
A section of the Ghanaian public have quoted scriptural verses from both the Holy Bible and the Quran to back the need for stiffer punishment for offenders of this bill. But Moro says his understanding of the scripture teaches him that God hates the sin but loves the sinner.
I oblige. But if you look at my signs, you see the Quran here, okay, 2 Quran verses against 1, okay. So what I'm telling you is that, yes, this country is dominated by what? Muslims and Christians. But then we don't want a situation whereby the country will become a theocratic one, all right? Okay.
With what you are doing, the feeling is that you might be targeted. Have you already started receiving some of these threats? And how is your family receiving this, knowing that you have openly come to declare your stance on this matter?
I remember also that on the eve or prior to the regional commander giving me, permission for this possession, I have an SHS schoolmate whose father was, a police officer, but he's now on retirement. He said, "Lovewell, you are too young. Don't do this."
And that day is partially naked Texas Kadir Moro on the streets today protesting as he's asking the state and the authorities to reverse the criminalization of homosexuality in Ghana. That bill is still in a lacuna. We don't know whether the president will receive it or not. That's it for Newsnight tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening.